destiny, the man, the myth, the microphone maestro, the legendary warrior of verbal jousting, whose steely gaze locks onto the battlefield of ideas like a predator eyeing wounded prey. And yet, here we find him not in his usual act of evisceration, not in the artful demolition of half-baked political musings from the peanut gallery, but watching, yes, watching, a Nick Fuentes segment as if he were a mere spectator at a Greek tragedy.
You can't alienate everybody all at once. You can't declare a trade war with no goals against both of your neighbors. You can't threaten all of your...
That one guy who made that subreddit post loves Nick Fuentes' stream, I bet. It's good composition.
treaty allies that you're in
But he's out of focus, I think. Or the resolution's just really low, I can't tell.
a defensive alliance with in Europe, such that they are talking about strategic autonomy from the United States. You cannot talk about expelling all Palestinians such that the entire Arab League condemns what you said and offers a counterproposal. You cannot get rid of all of America's soft power and dry up all that State Department money.
Do you agree with the Reddit post? No.
That keeps all the other countries in line. At the same time that BRICS has added 5 or 6 new members. At the same time that the UN General Assembly is voting 190 against you.
God. The problem is, like, Nick is a politics guy, meaning he wants power, right? Not like pop politics, like the left or whatever. But Trump is not a politics guy. And Trump doesn't do anything for more political power. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
It's even more unpopular than Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At the same time that China is producing 400 times more ships than the United States, that Russia's producing 20 times more ammunition, that we don't even control the supply chains for the critical minerals we need for electronics and phones and batteries and the energy transition. You can't do it all at once. And so people say, well, who cares about a couple of people in Gaza? Who cares about the plight of a couple of, people in Gaza? Who really cares? Diplomacy actually matters. Coalition building and power projection in the world actually matters. The idea that we're going to let Israel and Palestine and then we're going to turn over the keys to them so we can focus on China, it's a terrible idea, and it's not going to work. And everybody that is selling us on that idea, they're Israelis. They're Israelis that don't really care about the fact that America is losing.
Since when did Fuentes care about U.S. soft power? I thought he was a pro-Russia / anti-West anyways. The thing is that, like, so one, it's hard because Nick always has two positions. It's whatever he's publicly presenting that he wants his, like, Groyper movement to move towards, and then it's whatever he personally feels. And I don't watch a lot of it, so it's hard to keep track of both of these at any given point in time. However, generally, Nick is at least, like, politically pragmatically minded, meaning in his mind there are political ideas that have some logical through line, like this would make sense. My guess would be, I'm guessing without knowing his private position or watching much of his public content, my guess would be it's going to be similar to what I said a while ago, is that it's not so much that he's pro-Russian and anti-Ukraine. He just doesn't see much value in America sucking up to Europe or whatever, and he just wants, like, a stronger America first, world police, like those types of talking points. However, if you were an America first person and you wanted to strengthen America and you didn't want to be the world police and you want to say Israel and Ukraine, then you would be dramatically strengthening your ties with Mexico and Canada. Starting fights with Mexico and Canada, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like saying I can swim all on my own and I'm going to cut off the floaties that I'm using, and you've got floaties around both your biceps and then you slice off both your arms. And you're like, I'm going to go swim on my own now. Like, what the it's just such a horrible, 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 horrible strategy. There is no strategy. It's not a strategy at all. Somebody said, I don't think he's saying he cares here. He's just explaining why this is bad for the U.S. I don't think he's actually said that this is happening. Oh, that could be it too then. Maybe he's just explaining this is why some people say, maybe it's possible. But
standing in the world because of this. Israel loses nothing. All of Israel's neighbors already hate Israel. It's America that is losing face. It is America that is losing credibility.
It's not necessarily true, but...
The United States and its reputation in the world is suffering.
True.
And will suffer in the long term, for real. And the only reason is...
I guess the thing that's confusing for me, and some of this could also be personal for Nick, because he got personally slighted by Trump. everybody saw this coming. Like, this is how Trump has talked. Nothing here is surprising. Trump is just following through on everything he said he would do. He talked about wanting to tariff people. He talked about wanting to tariff our allies. He talked about losing in trade to everybody even closer. Like, he's already said all these things before. So you can't really be surprised that Trump is following through on it. Unless you legitimately, and I can't believe that Nick is this stupid. I don't know if I've heard Nick use the negotiations copium line before, that I hear so many otherwise seemingly intelligent adults use. Oh no, he's just saying that to negotiate. I don't know if I've heard Nick use that line before. Maybe Nick has, but like, man, if you genuinely believe that, how stupid are you? How stupid are you?
Israel is telling us, and Israelis and Jews in the United States are telling us, oh, it's not such a big deal. So what? It's some people are going to dig whip. It's because Israel's power projection will increase, ours will decrease. When they Gaza, when they destroy Iran, they will become much more powerful. When that happens, we don't become all that much more powerful. As a matter of fact, every country in the world hates it.
I don't hate I think Richard Spencer makes hell of valid points. Slightly smarter than Nick for sure, Mike Cook. I mean, Spencer's been changing into, I don't know if he's a normal liberal or if he's, I don't know if he's like are they called white, like a white? I don't know where Spencer's current beliefs are, but my audience is still a little bit infected with that. Like, if somebody believes something who was like at one point in time, they'll never ever change their mind on them. So I don't even dive into the Spencer shit because I really don't care that much. But I don't know where Spencer's at right now in terms of his political journey or whatever. But I'm just not that interested.
What a sight, what a moment, to observe Destiny, our stoic pugilist of Twitch, the Socratic warrior in skinny jeans, dissect the latest maneuverings of America's own pantomime villain, Nicholas Fuentes. And what, pray tell, has Fuentes done now? Why, he has done the unthinkable. He has gone and found himself at odds with the very movement that gave him life. The Trump train, once an ironclad behemoth of populist fury, is now a creaky wooden cart with square wheels. And Fuentes, erstwhile passenger, is realizing that it was, perhaps, never headed for the paradise he envisioned. Let us pause for a moment, dear viewer, and consider this profound absurdity. Imagine, if you will, a man who has spent years pouring the foundation of a house, only to wake up one morning and declare, "This house is not to my liking. The walls are too fascist, the roof is too Trumpian, and my neighbors, why, they are uncouth." And yet, was it not he who laid the very bricks? Did he not choose the colors of the drapes, the dimensions of the doorways, the wrought iron fixtures of demagoguery? And so Destiny watches, as one watches a slow-motion car crash, except that the car is also on fire, and the driver is furiously honking at pedestrians while blaming them for the impending wreckage. Fuentes laments Trump's erratic geopolitical gambits, decrying his diplomatic acrobatics that seem less Cirque du Soleil and more drunken uncle on a trampoline. The Fuentes, a man who has spun circles of rhetoric to justify the most indefensible of postures, now, at last, finds himself hoisted by his own petard, dangling like a marionette whose strings have become entangled in the absurdity of his own conviction. And Destiny, wise to the game, can only scoff. Here is a man who once painted himself as the vanguard of an American nationalist renaissance, now perplexed by the realization that Trump was never a strategist, never a statesman, never even a man of coherent conviction. He was, as he has always been, an improvisational artist of political theater, a man who sets fire to the stage and then asks the audience why it is so hot. Let us delve, dear viewer, into the crux of the matter. Fuentes, aghast, flabbergasted, aghast again, for the first aghast was simply insufficient, laments that Trump is burning every bridge at once. Diplomacy, he cries, soft power, he wails, the man who once championed a foreign policy of screw the globalists now realizes that one cannot alienate the entire planet and expect a warm embrace in return. Destiny, ever the pragmatist, sees through this charade with the clarity of a diamond-cut lens. Trump does not care for power in the way that a tactician does. He does not seek to consolidate, to maneuver, to strategize. Trump wields power in the manner of a child given a flamethrower. He sets everything alight not because he must, but because he can. And Fuentes, once the eager cheerleader of such pyrotechnics, now finds himself clutching a burnt-out torch, wondering where all the warmth has gone. But let us not be mistaken. This is not merely a moment of disillusionment for young Nicholas. No, this is something deeper, something far more exquisite. This is the slow, agonizing realization that the movement he once championed is not, in fact, a movement at all, but a cacophony of grievance without direction. An orchestra with no conductor, a ship with no captain, sailing aimlessly toward a whirlpool of its own making. And what of destiny? What does our silver-tongued devil make of all this? He watches, bemused, detached, yet somehow engaged, like a scientist observing a petri dish of bacterial infighting. He knows, as we all do, that Fuentes is not truly lamenting Trump's incompetence. No, no, no. Fuentes is lamenting his own powerlessness in the face of it. He is a man who built his ideology upon the shifting sands of Trumpian bombast, only to wake up and find that the tide has come in and the sandcastle has returned to the sea. What, dear viewer, are we to make of this grand affair? Shall we weep for Nicholas? Shall we clutch our pearls and mourn the tragic fall of a young idealist who believed in a movement that never truly existed? No, we shall laugh, and laugh heartily, for the irony is simply too delectable. The man who built a career on the destruction of others' dreams now finds himself staring into the abyss of his own disillusionment. And destiny, ever the provocateur, is there to document every second of it. So let us raise a glass, my friends, to the theater of the absurd. Let us toast to the irony of ideological folly, to the self-inflicted wounds of political opportunism, and to the eternal comedy of watching those who sought to set the world ablaze suddenly discover that fire burns indiscriminately. And as destiny clicks off the video, as he leans back in his chair with the smirk of a man who has seen this story unfold 1,000 times before, we are left with but one question. Will Fuentes learn? Will he adapt? Will he, at last, come to terms with the truth that his political messiah was but an illusion, a carnival barker with no wares to sell? Of course not. He will double down, as they always do. He will twist, contort, rationalize. And destiny will be there, waiting, ever patient, ever analytical, ever ready to watch the next act of this grand, ridiculous, and utterly enthralling drama unfold.